members and anyone in the public gallery can use mobile devices as long as they're in airplane mode and devices are muted, and that you can connect to Assembly Wi-Fi and password details are in the gallery rules. It's not permitted to take photographs or record any of the meeting, and the meeting will be on camera with live video broadcasting and a recorded video of the meeting placed on the committee's website. So moving to item 1 on the agenda, apologies. We have apologies, the long-standing apologies from Stuart Dixon, and we also have apologies today from John Stewart. Moving then to item 2, the draft minutes of last week's meeting are at page 5 of your pack. Are members content that these are an accurate reflection of the meeting?
Thank you.
Item 3 then, chairperson's business. There is nothing for that.
Nothing for us to flag.
So we're moving then to item number 6, matters arising. 6.1 at page 41 of your pack is in relation to the Department's programme for government priority that the economic strategy will support inclusive growth and create jobs as part of a Green New Deal. I would like to come back to this at a later date.
Chair, I think it's fairly short.
It's short, and my concern about it is kind of looking at how a Green New Deal fits into those things as opposed to how they are at a higher level and feeding into a Green New Deal.
Chair, I think to what the committee had talked about previously was ensuring that that is part of the DNA of the strategy as it's created or recreated from the previous draft. So we will continue to put pressure there for the department to, as I say, make that part of the DNA.
Right, 6.2 then is at page 44 of your packs. At our meeting on the 12th of February, the committee asked the department what input, if any, that the department had into the consultation from the Department of International Trade. So that is there on page 44.
Yeah. Chair, if I can just say on that one, it's also very much a work in progress.
Yeah. But it's quite a tight time frame.
It is.
And just looking at what the Minister has said in relation to it.
We've pushed it out to all of our stakeholders fairly aggressively. And we're waiting to see what comes back from them. You would anticipate the department would be, and because of the time scales, they can't go through a formal sort of set down normal consultation process, but that they would be going very quickly to their own kind of key list stakeholders to get their input on this. So what we might now also do is push out to our stakeholders around, have you responded to the department? Have you given the department your views on this? Can you share them with us? Because I think it would be really useful for the committee to just know what people are saying on that more generally.
Yeah, and the Minister is leading on the response for the executive, so it might be useful to have some insight into that.
Chair, there'll also be a fairly heavy DAERA input because of the whole agri-food industry and the amount of back and forth there is over the border as well. Okay, then moving on to 6.3, which is in page 3 of your tabled papers. So at the meeting on the 29th of January, the Economic Strategy Group, members had asked for the department to outline its views on the possibility of reducing rates of VAT to the hospitality sector. So members want to have a look at that. Chair, it's also very similar to, I think, what officials had said and what they've said previously around the lack of devolved control over VAT and the representations that have been made by the department to Whitehall around potentially looking at the idea of zero rated VAT for tourism, which is done in other countries. It's actually one of those things that's done reasonably broadly across. It's actually on page 9 of your table pack. Oh, it is, yes. 6.3. Because it looks like a 6 now. So it's not uncommon, but as we stand, UK government has not indicated a willingness to move on that VAT. throw it out.
Chair, I know in the south, mentioned in this letter, they've reduced VAT in terms of tourism, and it's argued as an advantage. But I do remember seeing or listening to a presentation from I think it was the head of ICTU at the time, around the impact of that reduced VAT in terms of investment in jobs, and there was no indication that reduction in VAT seen a corresponding increase in the number of staff employed in the tourism trade. So I think, as it indicates, there's more research required in this, and maybe something the committee wants to look at in the future, because we were almost reaching a point, and this follows on from what was supposed to be a budget debate yesterday. If you get up and ask that nobody pays tax, or we reduce everybody's tax, something has to give. So it's how and how we tax, obviously, but also in terms of how we support businesses in moving forward. I think what we need to be looking at is how we allow tourism to invest in its services and its marketing, rather than simply heading down this road of let's reduce tax.
Sorry, just through the chair, is there any possibility that we can look at a hotel tax as a part of raising money for the sector that would be more?
Off the top of my head, Chair, I think, there's been some discussion of that.
Yeah.
And I think I recall research. We take a look and see if we can. There is research.
I think,
on it, sure.
Again, John, I'm always agreeing with you. but again, it's
I know I should be worried the most about that.
But it's not just about,
Other levers,
you have to look at other levers of how we actually raise investment for the sector itself.
And as the Chair said, that's been mooted this week locally. But I know it's something I've seen research done for various places across these islands in terms of creating particular zones where this happens, or where there's clearly very high demand, that there is scope to put a hotel tax in place that may also then have the effect of raising revenue for whatever purpose, and potentially making the areas outside that area, especially if it's got high demand, look more attractive in terms of a lower differential price. So it can be one of those levers that maybe has a lot of positive follow-on effect, but we look into research on that.
I'm not entirely sure of my information on this, but maybe speak to Hospitality Ulster, particularly around that. Because I do understand there's something, and I'm meeting with them in the next couple of weeks about how they pay their rate. So it almost seems that they have an additional burden because they're a hotel. So you could be adding almost a double tax onto hotels, which I think we have to be conscious of. So it's not necessarily raising it through them by an additional tax. Maybe we could look at how the rate is distributed, because they do pay something. I'm not entirely sure what it is. We need to ask them around that. I take your point, but I would be worried that if they already receive something over and above what anyone else does.
This is individual
on
people who are staying.
Like a resort tax.
Sometimes, that's sometimes,
So then that will help support the sector as opposed to.
Yeah, I'm happy to make that.
And it can be done in a style. We have lots of examples of existing levies, for want of a better word, that are then ring-fenced and reinvested into training, and you could do all sorts of things around that. It's an interesting proposal, and also allows you to do something locally, rather than have to look at levers being exercised from London. I'll approach Hospitality because they may already have work on that.
I think they do.
That may well already be helpful. We don't want to reinvent the wheel if they've already got something on that.
Yeah. Thank you. So then moving to 6.4, there's a response from the department on page 11 of your table papers. If you remember, at our 22nd of January meeting, we had asked the department for a list of who they engage with around Brexit, so the list is there. And it's something we might want to come back to with them again. 6.5 then is on page 13 of your table papers. It's a draft of a letter that we agreed to send last week in relation to the points-based immigration system to the British Home Secretary, and also to
Home Affairs Committee and the MAC.
And the Migration Advisory Council. So Members would have a wee look at the letter, or probably already have. I actually wanted to propose a further sentence at the end of the first paragraph. I think you maybe have it.
We've incorporated into the hard copy. Essentially, Chair, and it's an issue that was put to the committee last week, and unfortunately I didn't reflect it in the letter, but it was raised around the issue of, while the committee has strong concerns about the level the salary threshold has been set at, we are in no way advocating a low-wage economy. I think it's very, very necessary to make that distinction.
Yeah.
So we can insert a line if members are content at the end of that first paragraph.
The line isn't in yet.
No, it wasn't in that. It's not in the version you've got.
Do you
It
want
is
me
now in
to
a hard
read?
copy version. If you can read the hard copy version.
So basically, it would be at the end of that first big paragraph, or it's the second full paragraph.
After EU membership?
So
Yep.
the paragraph
Yes,
that begins,
after EU membership, it would state, to be clear, the committee believes that we need to raise both productivity and salary levels here. However, the current proposals will disadvantage our economy and businesses.
to just makes that clear.
Yeah.
If members are content, we'll have it.
So, can I go back? I didn't get in quick enough. In relation to the response from the Department for the Economy about engagement, the stakeholder engagement, there's no Northwest business organisation that has been engaged with, which I suspected, and that's why I asked the question. So they haven't engaged with the Londonderry Chamber of Commerce or other organisations which are basically based at the border, and that. So I think there is a missing gap there, and I think we should go back to the department.
We can return to them and flag that.
And I think the point again around other regional chambers and all of the rest,
absolutely.
you know.
Because they only seem to have
Newry.
Newry and that's it.
Yeah, yeah.
So then move into the, sorry, I find the different papers here, 6.6, which is a draft of the letter that we agreed to send to the chair of the, to the Comptroller and Auditor General. So if members are content with that letter.
There's a little typo there that I wanted to flag up. It should say irregularities, not regularities. To an extent, Chair, the CNIG has beaten us to the punch. He already issued a statement last week after the committee meeting that while he hadn't had a letter, he would deal with the issues. So he's expecting this.
There's a typo. Yeah. Oh no, it's fixed.
Yeah, the hard copy's okay.
Okay. So moving on then to item 7, the secondary legislation, the SL1 on the Education Student Support Amendment Regulations Northern Ireland 2020. There's a clerk's memo at page 46 of your pack, and the SL1 then is at page 47. The statutory rule contains amendments to the Principal Student Support Regulations and the Education Student Support No. 2 Regulations NI 2009. It makes provisions for the support for students taking designated higher education courses in respect of an academic year beginning on the 20th of September.
So, Chair, this is our 2020 version of the, members will recall in our first couple of meetings we dealt with 17, 18 and 19. So this is the 2020 update. So there is a breakdown of the rates in relation to the tuition fees at page 48. The SR is subject to negative resolution procedure before the Assembly. It's anticipated that the rule will come into operation in April 2020. This is the committee's opportunity to consider the policy set out in SL1, as it's not possible to amend this once the rule has been laid in the Assembly Business Office. So if members are content with the policy implications, I'd just like to make one wee point in relation to the postgrad tuition fee loans. So they reflect about how they are not intending to disadvantage students. They don't reflect the disparity in postgrad, the cost of postgrad courses maybe south, and students from here being able to access them. So I think maybe as that's something we could just go back to the. We'll go back with that.
And the same for students who are going to England, Scotland or Wales. So then moving on to item number 8, there's a written briefing from the Health and Safety Executive for Northern Ireland on the written brief at page 55. The draft corporate plan is at page 61, and there's a draft operating plan for 2019-20 at page 105. Unless members have any actions they wish to suggest, John.
And it's just, it's alarming when you see it in black and white in terms of the number of deaths that are associated in the workplace. Like, one of their plans is to reduce serious and fatal accidents by 10% to no more than 50 per annum. It's just shocking, and particularly in the farming industry as well.
Lays out the figures there on page 50.
It's so maybe possible in the future for even to get a briefing, direct briefing with them.
We've had them before, yeah.
We have. There's a new chief executive that the committee wouldn't have met either.
You've been around a few corners.
It might be a useful opportunity to meet that new director.
But even if it helps highlight the issue around workplace safety and farm safety, if the committee has a briefing with them.
What we also do, Chair, and we look for members' help in this, we receive the alerts they put out at various times in terms of, when particular seasons begin on farms and the particular issues and safety concerns there are. Then we send them out to you, and if you could send them out as far as you possibly can, get them out over social media and so on. The more people that know, the better. So we continue to do that, but we schedule them to come in and talk to us, because it is.
We're quite active on social media, and Twitter and so on in relation to the safety alerts, but no, I fully support having them in at some time.
Okay. Claire?
I suppose I deal a lot in my constituency office with workplace stress and how that leads to, in some circumstances, death. I don't know if the health and safety executive would have a remit over that. I know a lot of this type of thing tends to focus more on the physical kind of illness and disability, but I think, for me, anyway, Northern Ireland post-conflict and the consequences of trauma and mental health, we never have an oversight around how the impact of stress, because that has a physical toll on the body as well. To be honest, I haven't read the report to understand if they do grasp that, but I know with my own dealings with them, I get a sense that they don't. And
no, it's generally, Chair, not within their remit, and they would probably point you towards the Public Health Agency instead.
Yeah.
I can totally, their name, Health and Safety Executive, does tend to imply so much more. And it's maybe, because members will obviously be aware, a lot of their most high-profile work is in the farming sector. And members will also be very acutely aware of the headlines that have been recently in terms of suicide rates and so on amongst farmers, general stress, etc. And it would be helpful and useful if they were not necessarily had that within their remit, but if that was part and parcel of the updates and warnings they put out to farmers of places they can go, people they can talk to. I think there's a lot of scope for a more joined up approach there, and it's maybe something we could explore with them when we get them in.
Because it does say, that it's the HSE's work is to prevent working conditions which are known to cause serious health conditions. But, mental health conditions are health conditions.
Even workplace policies, to me, that's that's something which is very much within the control of the employer and the workplace, and how they, what those policies say, how they conduct those policies, how they implement them, has an impact on the employee. And to me, that's a direct workplace injury. Albeit it's a mental one. And the impact of that stress then on the body in itself causes a physical impact. I think sometimes we go along with what we've always done. And, to me, one of the biggest crises in Northern Ireland is the mental health one, and it has been for a number of years. And I do think how employers, both in the public and private sector, have to be conscious of that in terms of how they develop their workplace policies. So I would like to see more work on that.
I think that's absolutely a really useful conversation that we can have with the Health and Safety Executive, who, as Mr. Dunn has said, have always shown themselves to be very responsive and kind of quick to act on situations like that.
My dealings with them, I've been referred elsewhere to the point that I'm back to where I started. Nowhere. And that's not good enough given that it's so prevalent and the rises of mental health are rising.
Sure, there's definitely synergies there and working in partnership with a lot of other public sector organisations would be much better done.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We'll bring them in and we can talk to them about that.
Okay. Moving on then to item number 9, there's a written briefing from the Construction Industry Training Board. That is on page 169, or there's correspondence on page 169 and the annual report on page 173. Unless members have anything that they want to flag on that one in particular. No. Thank you. So moving on then to item number 10, which is our forward work programme. It's at page 249 of your pack, and there's a number of events that Peter wants to highlight.
Yeah, Chair, there's one of the things the members will recall we agreed to do was the concurrent meeting with the Education Committee on the 14th to 19th strategy. We've scheduled that in for the 18th of March. What we'll do is we'll go together and meet in the Senate. And then they will remain there and we will come back here to finish our committee meeting, but essentially we will go through the process outlined in Standing Order 64B of joint committees, and we've already agreed in our minutes and so on, so effectively we're taking that in lieu of a resolution by both committees to meet jointly. So it'll operate like a normal committee meeting. The Education Committee chair will chair, you will be effectively deputy chair. But our intention would be to operate the same kind of indicating for questions system we always do.
Who's going to be clerk?
The education one, he will do it because it's effectively they are hosting. I couldn't possibly comment as a faceless mirror. They will effectively take care of all the logistics, and we will come in and then leave again. Okay. The other couple I wanted to flag up was. Members will recall our rescheduled meeting up at Magee is the 25th of March, so it's the same format moved to the 25th. So there'll be a breakfast with the Derry Chamber of Commerce, then the meeting itself, and then a stakeholder networking lunch that the university is organising. Depending on what is scheduled for the plenary the day before, we ideally would like to get up there and do a bit of a strategy session. We will plan for that. And thankfully, we weren't doing it today because budget yesterday would have really eaten into that. With any luck, we'll have a lighter plenary day. And that's, if members just...
might not, though. That could potentially be...
Well, I've thought about this. I think it'll be the week after.
Okay.
If budgets... Finance Minister talked about the end of March, and I'm really hoping that literally does mean the week after we're at Magee, because that would make our lives a lot easier. But we'll keep an eye on that. But at the minute, Michael has emailed out to members highlighting the organisation around doing a strategy session before, night before. So we'll see how we go with that. Larne Port visit on the 22nd of April. Again, we are going to attempt to also have a meeting where flagged this up to members last week. We're going to have our meeting at AEL, it's a social enterprise close to Larne Harbour. We'll have our quick meeting there after we've done our tour. We'll tour for about an hour and a half, and then we'll quickly go get briefing from AEL and then tour their site as well. So if members just want to put that into their diaries for the 22nd of April, then week beginning, 13th of May, we're bringing...
Your motions in the Assembly.
Now, I should probably explain to members what we're doing with that. Members will recall we've talked about doing a number of discussion sort of forum stakeholder events on a couple of issues. The 29th of April we've got one scheduled in for energy. That has got to have an outcome. So what we're going to do is effectively operate it like it's a very intense short inquiry, which means we'll do the event, we'll get feedback out of the event, we'll transcribe that feedback into a little report with recommendations from the committee, and we'll bring that to the Chamber's motion. Members will appreciate there is no point in spending the time talking to the stakeholders and not taking it somewhere. So bringing it to the floor means the issues are profiled, and it also allows the Minister to take it on board and potentially respond, and it allows us to feed back into that energy strategy process as well. So it's just a new format we're trying. Members will be used to the lengthy inquiries that can take years. We're just trying to make that a bit faster and a bit more punchy and have instant impact.
Okay, and just on the Magee visit,
yes.
NUS and
yes.
USI, are
yes.
they invited?
So they are very patiently hanging on for us, as are the UU Students' Union, so they'll be coming to that networking lunch, and they make themselves available as well for members to talk to.
That's great.
Also, we talked to members again close to the time about we're organising a bus up, so if plenary lends itself, members can get the bus up to Magee. We bring that back down, obviously, again, we wouldn't leave stranded there. But we'll keep those details coming back to members just so that you know what we're thinking of and how things will work.
So moving then to item number 11, which is correspondence. 11.1 is at page 254. It's correspondence from the PAC. So if members can note unless there's any actions to suggest. Then 11.2, there is correspondence from the utility regulator giving an update on SENI governance review consultation on page 258. Unless members have anything to add to that. I think we may want to talk to the utility. We can
explore that as well, yeah, with the utility regulator.
Yeah. Item 11.3, there's correspondence from ICTU at page 260 of your pack, requesting to come and meet the committee around both civic engagement and the workers' rights, employment rights stuff that has come out of NDNA. Yeah. So I think we hope to get it into the work programme as soon as we can. Then there is an invitation from the Human Rights Commission at page 261 of your packs. The Commission is partnering with the Legal Innovation Centre at Ulster University for an event at this year's Imagine Belfast Festival called The Computer Says No, about how welfare algorithms punish the poor. I'm sure it's something we've all a big interest in. So the committee is invited to the event and is held at Ulster University from 5:30 to 7 on the 25th of March. So there's a link there if members want to RSVP. 11.5 then, there's an invitation at page 263 of your packs from the Irish League of Credit Unions. A reception in the Long Gallery on Thursday the 26th of March from 12 till 2. I think the event is to celebrate the achievements of the credit union movement, and those members who are available are asked to respond by the 20th of March. 11.6 then, there is the investing activity report at page 19 of your table papers, which members will want to consider for themselves. So then moving to 11.7, there's correspondence from NI Farm Groups at page 24 of your pack. So if members are content that the chair or the deputy chair and myself will arrange to meet NI Farm Groups, and that all members are informed of the date and the time, so that if they want to come along that they can do so.
Great.
Okay. So then moving on to item number 12, any other business? We have nothing unless anyone wants to. Great. So item 13 then, next week we will meet as usual at 10 a.m. here. Thank you very much.
This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Committee Room 29. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Committee Room 29.